Hello, Mike. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
So, why do you choose FIT to come?
So, when I was first looking at colleges to go to when I was in high school, I mostly looked first for proximity. So, I lived about 2 hours south of Florida Tech, and it seemed a decent distance. And then I went to the open house about the computer science department, and there I learned more about what actually made me make my decision. So, the two big things that stood out for me in the department were, one, just the companies that came and recruited here. So companies like Microsoft, IBM, Mozilla, all these big companies come and recruit here, and the fact that they come here for employees says something about the quality of instruction and students that come out of the department. The other thing that drew me to the department was just the size. So I don't know how many students are in the department, but it's certainly a decent number compared to the professors. So the largest class I ever had in computer science was maybe 50 people, and I hear classes of hundreds at other universities. Here, the class sizes are small enough that the professors go out of their way to get to know students. They know your name before you even know that they know you. They reach out. They interact with the students a lot more closely than I've heard from other schools, and that really enticed me to come here.
Okay, so what kind of topics do you like in computer science?
So my main interest in computer science is web development. I've been doing web development before I started at Florida Tech. When I was a teenager, I got into PHP, making small websites and working on fan sites and things like RPG Maker, and that just transitioned. So when I came here at Florida Tech, I started working for the department, working on the computer science website, and I transitioned that that's my career now. So I interned at Electronic Arts for 2 years doing web development on The Sims, and most of my side projects are based on web sort of stuff. The other kind of thing I'm interested in is machine and assembly language, processors, hardware, stuff like that, mainly because of my senior design project where we had to actually develop an emulator.
Talking about senior design projects, so what do you do for your senior design?
So my senior design project was called Super Nintendo Online, or SNOW for short. It was a Super Nintendo emulator. So it was a program that let you load data from Super Nintendo games, Super Nintendo being a game console that Nintendo released about 20-something years ago. And it lets you play these games on your computer. And we developed it as a Java applet that runs in a browser. So we have a website you can go to, and it just starts right up and starts playing a Super Nintendo game. No downloading necessary or anything like that. And because it was on a website, one of the things I was interested in that we didn't get to touch because making it run as a Super Nintendo was hard enough, were things like websites interacting with the emulator. So you could do things like a high score table for a game released 20 years ago online and stuff like that.
So the main challenge for the emulator would be like understanding the instructions, right? The assembly instructions?
Yeah, figuring out how the processor works, going through those 256 things the processor can do. We have to program all of them. Super Nintendo actually has two separate processors. One's a Sony something, I can't remember. The other one's a 65816. And one of them does sound, the other one does most of the general processing. We had to learn how the graphics work. There's 8 different modes of graphics that we had to implement, and we implemented around 3 of them, one of which does 3D transformations. We had to read lots of documentation to get this to work, including official Super Nintendo documentation from Nintendo that was not good at all. Most of our best documentation came from teenagers in the 80s writing text documents about how the Super Nintendo works.
So how about activities outside classes?
Outside of classes, I was involved with both the ACM, Association for Computing Machinery, and UPE, Upsilon Pi Epsilon. I was vice president of ACM for a year, then president, and I've just finished being president of Upsilon Pi Epsilon. And so we tried to host all sorts of student activities.
Can you describe what ACM and UPE are?
So ACM is a professional organization that computing professionals become members of, and it provides them things like access to research papers, things like that. And UPE is basically the honor society version of ACM. So GPA requirement. We do a few different things. We cater to upperclassmen as compared to freshmen.
So what kind of activities you did?
So We do things like seminars, so one student will know something about a programming language or a piece of software, and they'll hold a seminar about that so other students can learn like how to do web development. I've done seminars on how to do game development. We do other things like company tours, so we've toured GE here in Melbourne, we've toured Electronic Arts in Orlando, and we're hoping to set up tours with other companies, in the future. We also do social events, so just students, getting out and not just sitting in their room playing World of Warcraft all day long, as computer science students are apt to do, and getting professors interacting more with students. So we have this thing called CS Fest that we run once a year, where professors and students get together and they do things like we play volleyball, we play other sorts of ping pong, we have a barbecue, we have Jeopardy, which some students created a Jeopardy program that we can put our own questions into, and we hold Jeopardy tournaments with the professors and the students either competing or working together, and then just, food, other types of activities just to sort of keep the department closer, because the biggest thing about the department is just the close-knit community.
Great. So how about your plans after graduation?
So after graduation, in about 2.5 weeks actually, I'll be moving out to Mountain View, California to start working for Mozilla Corporation, the people who make Firefox. I'll be working on their websites, so things like addons.mozilla.org, the website that you download Firefox from, and just all other websites that they have to do. And they're a non-profit, so all the code that they develop, I'm pretty sure all of it, gets released as open source, and I can work on anything in my spare time as an open source project, so I'm really excited to be working with them on stuff like that.
Well, great. Good luck with your plans. Thanks
you.
for talking with us.